My question is to the Minister of Finance. Does he agree with economist Gareth Morgan that the lack of a capital gains tax is, quote, the biggest tax rort in the country and one that has cost us dearly in terms of efficient allocation of capital, economic growth and employment?
The Honourable Bill English.
Mr Speaker, I think if Mr Mallard had seen what Dr Morgan has said on this, he would have prevented this question being asked too. In respect to capital gains, Dr Morgan has said there should be no exemptions, certainly not on the family home.
Point of order,
the biggest tax
order. Point of order has been ordered. The Honourable Trevor Mallard.
Reflected on the beginning of that answer, Mr Speaker, it of course would be a breach of privilege for a member to prevent another member asking a question, and members are not allowed to make that allegation in this way.
I've got the member makes a perfectly reasonable. The Honourable Bill English, I'll hear him on the point of order.
Mr Speaker, I was simply observing what occurred in the House. I'm not trying to say it was procedurally correct or not, but quite clearly that member overruled the asking of a question. That may be against standing orders. We didn't draw attention to
order. I don't think we need to pursue this further. Order. I think when answering questions, it's not helpful to make that kind of comment. The Honourable Bill English, in answer to the question.
Mr Speaker, Dr Morgan has said there should be no exemptions, certainly not on the family home, which is the biggest tax shelter of all. I understand his comments after the recent package was announced was, if you exempt that, being the family home, if you exempt the family home from your tax, you're sort of knocking yourself over the head before you start running, which I think was a very good description of Labour's whole package.
The Honourable David Parker.
Does the Minister of Finance agree with Westpac Chief Economist Dominic Stevens, and I quote, New Zealanders are incentivised to borrow money to buy land rather than invest in productive assets? If we introduced a capital gains tax, that incentive would be diminished and there would be a greater incentive for people to save via bank deposits or productive business ownership.
The Honourable Bill English.
Well, Mr Speaker, that economist should get himself up to date with the measures the government took in last year's budget, which mean that this year we will take about $1 billion extra tax, or a bit under actually, about $850 million extra tax from the property sector, which is a much larger amount of tax revenue than that member's package would take out of that sector probably for about 10 years.
The Honourable David Parker.
Does the Minister's budget forecast under current economic and tax settings show an increasing current account deficit, rising to around 6% of GDP, funded by more overseas debt each and every year to the end of his projections? And doesn't this suggest to him that significant structural changes like a capital gains tax are needed to cure New Zealand's structural problems?
The Honourable Bill English.
Well, Mr Speaker, the government is applying itself to New Zealand's structural problems, and I can tell that member that both we and the public believe that packages that include significant increases in taxes, increases in government spending and increases in government debt will make those problems worse, not better. In fact, I might warn that member that a predecessor of his, Dr Cullen, campaigned on the current account deficit and managed to double it in the time that he was Minister of Finance under the previous Labor government.
The Honourable David Parker.
Was the government embarrassed when Patrick Smelly reported, and I quote, Finance Minister and Facebook page owner Bill English didn't get the presumably intended answer when he asked the visitors to the page whether they supported the Labour Party's proposal for a capital gains tax? When Business Desk last looked at 4:15 p.m, 314 people had voted, 88% in favour of a capital gains tax.
The Honourable Bill English.
No, Mr Speaker, and I wasn't aware that the Labour Party research unit was that big.
The Honourable David Parker.
Well then, was the government...
Order, I want to hear the question.
Well then, was the government embarrassed to read the Herald on Sunday state, quotes, apart from borrowing money and talking up a questionable program of asset sales, National is showing no signs of a plan to get us out of the mess we're in. And if he's not embarrassed, is he at least very concerned that he might be on the wrong side of this issue, given that so many senior economists and commentators believe that New Zealand's structural problems need a structural cure that the government hasn't delivered?
The Honourable Bill English.
Mr Speaker, no, but I was I was embarrassed for the Labor Party to see people who they would expect to vote for them quoted in the media last week supporting the government's plan. In fact, most New Zealanders understand what needs to happen in this economy, and they have confidence in the John Key-led national government to find our way through the recession in a considered way and build a platform for strong economic growth over the next 5 years.
Question number 8, Jonathan Young.